Today on Core Conversations, we have Jessica Valant. Jessica is the co-founder of Momentum Fest, a festival celebrating movement. She is a physical therapist and a Pilates coach. Her passion is to create a safe space in her events for people to celebrate and enjoy movement. The conversation went from parenting to working with our spouses, and then circled back to safe spaces, where we explored how we can move from a safe space to cultivating a brave space for people to step into who they authentically are. Enjoy the conversation.
So I'm Jessica Valant. I'm a physical therapist and Pilates teacher, so I've been doing it for about 20 years. So I'm in Denver now. This is where I went to PT school, so I landed here. Met my to-be husband. We decided we needed the beach, so we moved to Hawaii in 2006.
Okay.
So most people know that we were in Hawaii for a long time. So I owned 2 studios there. Then we moved back to the mainland and ended up selling those studios. So I made the pivot online simply out of necessity. My daughter was 1 and we had really just moved to California. I didn't know anyone, so I wasn't at a spot. I wanted to open a studio again. Mm-hmm. So I pivoted online and it ended up working out for us. We had our second baby. We moved back to Denver to help take care of Brian's parents. So we're back here. We miss the beach terribly, but we do like Denver. We love Denver. So yes, that's kind of where I am now. And then, we decided to add Momentum Fest to the mix a couple years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So how old is Momentum Fest?
This is our 3rd year. I was going to say this was going to be our 3rd year. This is our 3rd year. So 2018 was our first year.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, when I have people on, how everyone is at different phases in their Pilates career. And now you've ran a couple of businesses, you've sold a few of these, you've moved, you've gone to online, you've made some of these transitions. Can we just talk about that for a minute? Because I'm sure there's people that are kind of curious, well, how'd you do that? How did you even got the courage to take the leap from working for somebody to doing it? So I'd love to just start there, just for people to just hear how you even came to that process.
I say that everything I've done, really everything I did, I said I would never do. I said, I will never own a business, ever. I mean, I was the quintessential 9 to 5, especially as a physical therapist. I think Pilates teachers already have that mind frame, which is a great attribute to have, understanding that a career can look different than what we're taught growing up.
Convention.
But for me, growing up, oh, sorry, am I still there?
No, yes, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So for me, growing up, very much it was celebrated, get your benefits, have your hours, do something regular, and physical therapy very much gives you that. So I was a physical therapist first and then was trained in Pilates soon after. So I worked in Denver in that kind of 9 to 5 realm, and started being hired by studios and physical therapy clinics to start their Pilates program, since it was the early 2000s.
Yes.
It was just coming into play in PT studios. So that's kind of where I was, and I was enjoying it. And I remember my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, his family was traveling to Hawaii and I had never been. And he's like, let's go. We're all going to go. And I said, well, I have to ask for time off. I don't know how much vacation time I have. And it hit me, I am a grown woman. I'm an adult. And I have to ask permission to go to Hawaii and stay 3 extra days. So I quit my job because I wanted to go to Hawaii. And so we did, and we went for a few weeks, and we came back, and they brought me on right away as an independent contractor. So that was kind of my first transition, was realizing I can actually still do what I love, but I can set the tone a little bit more.
Yes.
So I did that right away, and that was great for a year or so. And it's a different, like I said, most of your audience probably is already there, but it's definitely a different lifestyle. You're driving all over the place. You're going to different studios. You're following different rules. But for me, the idea of setting my own schedule, I never went back in that aspect. And then we moved to Hawaii, and same, I was all set to be an independent contractor. I never wanted to be a business owner, but Hawaii is kind of behind the rest of the world in certain aspects. It takes a couple more years. So we got there, and there wasn't a single place that had physical therapy and Pilates combined. So I had to drive all over to do both. Yes. And I realized, all right, if I kind of want to rein it in and be in one place, I need to start it. And so that's what we did. and we opened one, and we opened it out of another physical therapy studio. So I think for people who are looking to possibly start something, that's a great avenue to follow. Like we just rented
Yes.
space from them. We kind of shared clients. I only had a couple reformers, so it was very low risk in some ways. And
Yes.
we grew really quickly. We started butting heads with the other company. We left on great terms, but kind of knowing when it's time to start and knowing when it's time to end.
Yeah. You kind of just grew out of it in a sense.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And it was a great problem to have, but it was definitely one of those, we had to have some hard conversations with the people we were renting with. So we ended up opening another and then soon opening a second. So we ended up with two. We had a staff of 20. And again,
Wow.
it was great. And I never thought we would leave Hawaii ever. I never thought I would sell. I mean, we were there, we were ride or die. We were there forever. And then
Yes.
life changes, right? You pivot
Yes.
again, you go with it. And so, yeah, we ended up selling, which I know a lot of people end up with questions about. So I'm happy to talk through it. But we ended up,
Sure.
and now I'm back to doing some independent contractor work just to see patients here in Denver. I feel like I'm back full circle, back in Denver, doing a little bit of independent contractor work, but really mostly working out of our house, doing a lot online, doing a lot with Momentum Fest. So that's kind of my
Amazing.
long, fortuitous journey back to where
Yeah. I'm sure you skipped a couple challenges along the way in there too, right? Just maybe one or two.
I,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The how big was your first space after the shared space?
It was 1,000 square feet. We
Okay.
had 7 reformers. I
In
feel
the
like
thousand
we
square
had
feet.
6 in a line for a class.
Okay.
Then we had a studio reformer in the back with a curtain around it that we
Mhm.
used for privates and physical therapy. We
Okay.
had a chair, we had a ladder barrel, we had a front desk, but it was all just one big, it was all in one space. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the second one we opened was double the size, about 2,000 square feet with 2 rooms. And that's just a whole other lesson on whether bigger is better necessarily. Because to be honest,
Yes.
our small startup one was the one that always carried the weight of the business. Like that's the one that kept
Interesting.
running financially. That's the one the clients really felt attached to. So
Yes.
it was a big business lesson for me on growing doesn't always mean bigger necessarily.
Right. And did you find any challenges keeping the vision intact as you went to a second location?
I did. I think it was on me a lot. One thing I've realized about myself along the way is I don't think I am the best boss. I love
Okay.
to be with people and I love, in some respects, managing, but not from a hierarchy standpoint. I really like to be a part of a group and a part of a community. I love the coffee meetings with staff and I love sharing
Mhm.
ideas and the workouts. But once I got into the point of, oh gosh, I have to make financial decisions and I might have to fire someone or let them go or cut their hours, I lose my identity a little bit because it's not a comfortable place for me. So that's one lesson I
Yes.
think I've learned is I don't know if I want to be the boss because it's just not a great skill set for me.
Right.
So I think
Okay.
that's what I really lost when we grew and I had now 2 staff to manage and new problems and trying to support everyone. I just went too much into boss mode and lost the connection to staff, which then ends up
Yes.
losing the connection to clients. So I think that's where I really needed some growth that I didn't have at the time.
It's yeah, and there is no playbook that you could have opened up beforehand
Right.
that told you that. But you're the third person I've had on here who said, in effect, you lost a piece of yourself when it got so big.
Yeah. Yep. And I think like we become teachers, movement instructors, educators because we want to help people. I mean, we're people in some way, shape, or form, whether we're
Right.
introverted or extroverted. We love
Yes.
the person connection. And I think somehow so we want to grow that, I guess. Like we want to spread it more. Like I want it more and more and more. Let's spread this
Yes.
vibe. Let's spread the good stuff. But then it gets so big that we actually lose our own connection to spreading that and our own love
Yes.
for movement. And so
Right.
we do lose that. We can, not all of us, but we
No.
can lose that piece of ourselves. So I think it's definitely possible to grow and keep it.
Mhm.
But I think it has to be a step by step process instead of okay, now I'm going to jump from here way out there because it's
Way
just
over
going to
there.
be better out there. and it's different. It can be better, but you have to understand first it's just going to be different, I think.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, so that makes me think about what those guardrails that we need to put on our lives so that we can maintain our love for movement, but then also scale ourselves out enough that we can share that love of movement with more people than we can by ourselves.
Right, right. And gosh, I wish I knew that and make things so much easier.
Nice.
Um, I think one lesson I've learned, and this is, so we didn't have social media back then, actually. When I opened in 2006, in some ways I was lucky. I mean, I didn't have to deal with social media at all. We had a Yelp page, and that's about it, and a web
That's
page.
about it.
That's all we had.
Yes.
That was it back then. And I think that probably helped me because I realized social media is a huge part of my job now and my career, and I like it. But there are times I'm realizing it can suck the energy from me and take me away from that identity. And
Right.
so just realizing that, and that maybe if you're a business owner and you are in that space, that you either find someone else to do it or you set a boundary, or
Mhm.
maybe that has to do with staff meetings, or maybe it's doing your taxes. I think whatever it is that might take you away from that feeling of connectedness, you
Yes.
can try to outsource or at
Outsource that.
least find a way, because outsourcing isn't always possible when you're trying to save money. And especially in
Hmm.
our current landscape, I mean, no one has the extra money to spend necessarily. But I
Right.
think at least blocking a day and saying, okay, I don't have to do social media every single day. Like I can block it one day a week, two
Hmm.
hours, I'm going to plan, and then I set it aside. And same maybe if it's your bookkeeping, like block one day a month, that's it, set it aside so it's not always in the back of your head. I think that's
Yes.
the thing, and I'm still learning that every single day.
Hmm.
That helps me.
Well, and that's true, Jessica. I was talking with my client this morning, and he's a psychologist, so I bounce ideas off him
Yeah.
a lot. And one of the things that came up was that creativity that has come out of this time, right? So, I mean, yes, there's some anxiousness around our economy and our personal finances with not working, but then the beauty of it too is that because there isn't as many distractions, it all kind of opens our mind to be a little bit more creative and to be able to return back to the things that we love and give more time and energy to those things which help to fuel our business and our passions, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just interesting how we have to find that sweet spot between those all
Yep.
those little pieces.
Yes, totally.
Mm.
And one of my closest friends, who's a physical therapist, we went to PT school together. So she went to art school first. So she's an
Okay.
artist at heart. I was talking to her the other day, and she, during this time, and she owns her own studio, so she's going through the stress of rent and all of that. But she has found her way back to art, and she's taking hours a day to paint, and she is probably
Yes.
happier than she's been in a while. And with that, we were really brainstorming, and she was talking about ways to combine art with neurology, with movement, and maybe downsizing and starting her own smaller place that she can really bring all of this together. And I'm like, how great is that? Like, and when would you have had time to
When would you have
even
had time to?
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Spend so much time working in our business that we don't spend any time working on our business.
Yeah.
And this is the time to work on our business and allow it to grow and to all those things are on the back burner on the
Yeah.
side hustle sort of plan to come to the forefront, and we can take some time with that.
Yeah. I agree. And I think it gives us time to even decide what we want. Because I'll say
Yes.
from the standpoint of a mom with a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old now suddenly at home, and filling out business loans and making sure all of our businesses are going, there are many days I think I haven't grown at all. Like I probably
Hmm.
like grow like lessened myself today. Like I think my brain is less than it was at the beginning of the day.
Some
And so I
cognitive
think
slippage, perhaps.
so I think if there's anyone out there thinking, oh, I should be growing more during this, I'll say it's okay if you're not. Like most days I'm not. Most days I'm just trying to keep my kids alive, my business is alive, say hi to my husband as we pass each other in the hallway. So this is a crazy time. So if you're not in that place, it's okay. But
Yes.
maybe listen to what are you excited about going back to as things reopen? And
Mhm.
whatever you're really excited about, try to do more of that. And anything that does this, that makes you feel heavy or that you're dreading, see if you can find a way to get rid of it, because now is the time to be able to do that. So even if
Yes.
you're just on a walk with your kids, like sometimes I'll just make sure I don't listen to a podcast and I'll just let my thoughts go and see how I feel. Notice how you
Mm,
feel when you wake up in the morning. Like I said, what are you really excited about? What are you really not excited about? And
yes.
sometimes that at least will help guide you to that next journey of where you want to be, because if nothing else, we're learning that life is too short to continue to do something you really don't like to do.
Right. Exactly. Well said. I like what you were saying earlier too, Jessica, about like finding like outsourcing.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties into the conversation around partnerships as
Mm-hmm.
well. And if you look like behind you, I've had this little Pilates studio that I've been building, and my wife has been awesome with, like pictures on the wall and making logos for core conversations and all these different things. And we've been talking a lot about the fact that she's doing all the stuff that I suck at. Let's just be real, like, right? So, and likewise, she never wants to be on the camera. So
Yeah.
the things that I don't want to do, she's doing. The things that she doesn't want to do, I'm doing. And that helps us to continue to move forward with
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing here, right? So, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. My husband has been, well, we met when he came to a Pilates class. So like
Oh.
we are grounded in Pilates together. And in some ways that helps because I never had to explain to him the benefits or what I do. Like as partners, I
Right.
think a lot, they're like, oh, you do Pilates. Great. What is that? They don't really know.
Yes.
So
Right.
he understood the benefits starting off, which was nice. And then with my studios in Hawaii, he was always very supportive, always doing all the things. Like, hey honey, the ballet bar broke off the wall. Can you please come? Can you please come fix that? And I mean, I can't even tell you how many moves we did. You guys know what it's like when you get that big shipment of equipment. It's like Christmas Day,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
then they just leave it on your doorstep. And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. So I mean,
Right.
we have some great memories and some really fun times doing all of that together. And that being said, he really was helpful. Our daughter was born and she was 1 when we sold. So those early months, we were definitely trading back and forth. And I was at the studio a lot, and he'd be home, and she'd come to the studio with us. So I knew once we sold that I wanted to make sure that he was doing also what he loved to do. And he has a
Okay.
whole other career, and this was all just helping me along the line.
Yes.
So when we started talking about Momentum Fest, it was really clear of, okay, is this something we want to do together? Like, this isn't going to be my studio that you help or your career that I help. This is
Hmm.
something, is it right for our family? Is it right for our finances? So I think it is two different things. Sometimes you have something already that you kind of draw your partner into, which
Right.
is great. And those are discussions you just have to make sure you have along the line. Or you
Yes.
can start something from scratch. And again, you just have to have the discussion going off the bat. Hey, are we both in this 100%? Like, I don't want to get 6 months in and realize I drug you along and now I have resentments and you don't.
Yes. Right.
I think that's a big part of it. But we did with Momentum Fest, it was a both dive in at the same time. I was 8 months pregnant actually with our second baby when we decided to go for it. So he
Wow.
was along for the ride the whole time. But
Yes.
you're exactly right. He does the things that I either don't like to do or I'm not really good at, which a big part of it's numbers. So he'll
Okay.
do the negotiating. He'll look at food and beverage numbers for a hotel. Like, I can't even, my brain can't even go there.
Right.
I don't know what any of those words mean. So,
Right.
so, but that's a big part of an event. And so if I
Yes.
didn't have him, I'd probably have some really awesome classes, and then we would get kicked out of the
And
hotel because we're not doing anything for them. So
right. Yes.
you're exactly right. You have to balance each other and know who does what really well, and then not be afraid to ask if you need something more. And then
Right.
also not be afraid to say no if they're asking you for more and you're like, I'm at capacity. Like, I can't. So either we outsource this together or we consider another path because I just can't take on anymore. And sometimes it does involve that. Sometimes you just have to learn how to say, no, I actually can't. Like, I can't take any more of this.
Right. Exactly. And there's a humility in that, right? Like
Yes.
the flip side is saying, "Oh, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Oh,
I'll do it. I got this. I got this. I got this." And then yeah, and then it blows up in your face, right?
oh yeah. Yeah. And that's a whole other lesson that whew, I'm learning.
Yes. It's always a journey, right, Jessica?
Yeah.
We're always learning in these processes.
Yeah.
And then what about decision making process, the whole decision making, flow? Because I'm sure it's different than your decision making at home, right? Like you can make a
Yeah.
decision with your daughter that he may be better make a decision with the business or vice versa, right? So
Yep. That's
how do you
yeah,
how do
I
you figure
think
that out?
there's a big humility with that too. So the way we've kind of divided it up is, I knew the people, the instructors, the language of our industry, whereas I cannot sit and measure a space. So that's something he'll do. Like, if we walk into a hotel space, I'll say, I bet we can fit 100 people here, and I'll walk out. He'll measure it. He'll say, how much space do we need for each person on a mat? And he'll do the math and say, honey, we can fit 62 people there.
Uh,
Oh,
right.
okay, great. So that's the part he'll do, the really
Yes.
important part. But then I love
The
to
clear
sit and
part.
create the schedule, and do artwork with it. Like this class needs to go here and this here. And so we do balance each other well. But then what will happen, I feel like, is one of us will get into our groove. Like I'll get into my groove of social media and connecting with people. And I'll end up saying something or using verbiage that he'll come back and say, I don't know if that's what we wanted to convey to our audience because this and this and this. And
Uh,
I'll say, you know what? I didn't think of it from that perspective. I'm used to my personal business that's more of a platform and I can kind of say certain things. It's really just me versus Momentum Fest that really is this big business reaching out to a lot of people and we're speaking for a lot of people. And so that's really
yes.
helpful. I've had to definitely humble myself, look at it from a different perspective and
Hmm.
say, you know what, you're right. So I've learned, whereas I typically would just shoot off emails, if it's an important one or a group one, I'll make sure he looks at it too. And it's just because I need another set of eyes. And I
Right.
trust his eyes because he does come at it from a different perspective. But you do
Yes.
have to take your defenses down, not get defensive. You have to kind of, like you said, step away from the marriage and parent roles a little bit because they are
Yes.
different and step into the business roles. But also, I think if you have a good partnership, which I feel like we do, we make a great team, those roles do transfer a little bit. So it makes it easier.
Hmm.
Like I know him, I trust him. And maybe that's the biggest thing, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, is that I trust him. I know he's always going to
Yes.
make the best decision for our family, for our kids, for himself, and for me. And that's all I can really ask for is I know he's going to make the best decision for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you gonna cry?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I will say this for the audience too. Probably once a day since March 13th or when schools were canceled, I probably
Yes.
have cried. So if you
Oh.
do, it's okay. It's fine. There are times my daughter's like, are you crying? Nope. No,
No.
totally fine.
That's awesome.
That's what quarantine will do
So
to you.
what was the vision of Momentum Fest? What made you decide that like this is what our community needs?
That's such a good question. So I would say 10 years ago now, so in Hawaii, we were on Oahu, and a large yoga festival came. And in Hawaii, big things don't usually come. So it's a really big
Okay.
deal if anything comes that we can do. So a really large yoga festival came to the North Shore, and myself and about six other girlfriends were like, let's go. It was a 3-day festival. We got a condo on site. We brought all of our food and we brought wine. And so we ended up going just together and kind of made it the girls' trip. And what happened was we did yoga classes all day long. And I did things I never thought I would do before. I mean, various classes on meditation and Hawaii history, so many things. And we would come back to the condo and eat together and talk and be sweaty. And then we'd go out and dance at night at the parties that they had. And I drove home so sweaty and tired, but just so full. I mean, I was
Yes.
literally a student. I didn't have to teach anything. I didn't have to tell anyone what to do. I didn't have to take notes on anything. I didn't have to get a CEC for it. I mean, I just moved and I moved next to a ton of people I didn't know. I
Perfect
didn't know if they were
strangers and
students or teachers.
right.
We just connected because we were there. And so I got home and I was telling my husband how amazing it was. And he's like, well, don't you have anything like this for the Pilates world? I'm like, no, we don't. We don't have anything that is literally just movement.
Hmm.
That's not learning. And then we don't have
Yes.
anything that involves students as well. I mean, everything really is teacher invite only. And so
Yes.
we sat on that for years and kept coming back to it and kept coming back to it. And I think I tried different ways into that, by kind of opening my own studio and getting involved online a little more. I was actually on the PMA board for a while, just saying, we need more. There's something more our industry is missing. And there was a lot of
Yes.
back and forth for a while there about lineage and all of those things that I thought, these aren't the questions we should be asking. Like, there's something missing.
Yes.
And it never came to be. And so again, somehow 8 months pregnant, walking around the lake here in Denver, I called my husband and I said, I think it's time. I think it's time we do it, because the industry's ready for it. It's ready for a
Yes.
connection. And if we don't do it now, I'll always wonder. And Denver actually is a great city for it. It's a very Pilates centric city, and then also in the
Yes.
middle of the country. So we really sat down the next day and started saying, what is this going to look like? What's your vision for it? Who do you want here? And I knew I had to start with teachers, because if we didn't have teachers, I couldn't hold an event. So
Yes.
at that point, it was a baby idea, and we really didn't know if people were going to come, to be honest. I hoped they would, but I did not know. So I thought, who are the people I know? I mean, honestly, just some of my friends who are teachers who will come and do this just out of the goodness of their heart to be nice to me, even if nobody shows up.
Right.
And that's who I called, and they all said yes. And that was the first Momentum Fest in 2018. And we were lucky, Balance Body came on as a sponsor, and we had some great companies there. We had 250 people, I think, our first year.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and really seeing, I remember at the end of the event thinking, okay, this is what I needed to know, is if there were other people who felt like I did and needed
Yes.
this connection, and there were. And so that's how Momentum Fest was born, was the idea that in Pilates, I didn't feel like there was a place that we all could just connect back to movement,
Mhm.
that we could go up to each other, and instead of asking the first question, where were you trained? We just said, hey, what's your name?
Yes.
Like, what's your name?
Yes.
Because wasn't that teaser so hard? Oh my gosh. And let's go over here and let's talk about your life and your beliefs and your kids.
Mm.
And oh, and by the way, later on, once I know you, sure, let's talk about our lineage and how we teach. But that's not how we lead. It's not
That's
how
not, yeah, you don't leave with that. You don't open with that.
right, exactly. And
Gotcha. Gotcha.
we ended up seeing that. I think what really touched me is a lot of people use the word safe space. So a lot of people who didn't feel
Mhm.
safe in the typical Pilates community and Pilates conferences and fitness conferences were coming. I mean, they were coming by themselves. They were coming out of the woodwork just because it felt like a safe place, that they weren't judged. And that meant a lot to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say some more about safe space. Like I love that concept. I use that a lot. So from your perspective, like can you just expand that like safe space piece?
Yep. I, well, I'll come at it because I was just talking to my daughter about this actually. So she's
Okay.
7, and
Okay.
sometimes she'll say, well, mommy, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but, and I'll say, honey, this is your safe place. Like, our house is your safe space to come and say whatever you need to say, move however you need to move, do whatever you need to do. If you're scared, you come and use words, you find the words, we find the words together. And this is where you will always be loved and protected, and we'll do it together. Like, I can't protect
Yes.
her from everything, but I can walk that path with her and make sure she
Yes.
knows she's not alone.
Hmm.
So I think in some ways that's what a safe place is someone can walk in their fullness of everything they are, whatever they
Yes.
believe, whatever journey they're on, and they're supported in that. Like, that's it. You are welcome into our class and into our movement. Do not stay on the
Yes.
sidelines. Do not quiet your voice unless you want to. If you are an introverted person and you're great, we're going to support whatever it is. But there's classes for everyone. And I think that, and like I said, that I think was in the back of our minds when we created it, but we couldn't verbalize it. And I think
Yes.
it was Deborah Callway actually last year. She taught at Momentum Fest last year. And I think she was the first one who used that word for me because, and I don't want to speak for her. She's an amazing person and she'll talk to you guys about her journey. But she had talked about there weren't a lot of safe spaces for her as an older mover,
Okay.
as someone who's taught for a long time, but is adjusting her journey, adding in these things like meditation and things like that. And so
Yes.
she just felt safe to explore all of those things and to,
Hmm.
to take a break in the middle of class. If you can't finish a class, great. Take a break, sit, watch, laugh, and then jump back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's so it sounds like Momentum Fest is like an unpretentious conference for movers to just celebrate movement.
Yes, that's
Is that a
all.
good elevator pitch?
Yeah, that's great. Except use the word festival instead of conference, just because
Gotcha.
festival's more fun. That's
Okay.
nice. We try to incorporate a lot of music, a lot of dancing. Yeah, I would say definitely that. I mean, you're going to be greeted with hugs. That's the hardest part for me not coming up this weekend. Like,
Hmm.
everyone knows I walk by them and I hug everyone, and my husband's the same, and all the teachers are. It's very accessible, I think is another word. Like for
Yes.
anyone, if you're just a student, we want you to come, just move. And it's not
Hmm.
just Pilates, we have acro yoga and we have bar, and Roxy was going to teach Afro funk dance this year. And I'm so sad that she can't do that. And
Hmm.
so many modalities.
Yes.
Jason was coming to do a Reiki and meditation class, amazing as well. Andrea, speaking of art, she's doing an art therapy
Okay.
class talking about boundaries and moving forward. So,
Lovely.
yeah, it's just such a neat place to connect with yourself. Like, that's what I want people to realize is, hey, you can set
Hmm.
aside your notes. Like, we need to learn as Pilates instructors, and we need
Right.
CBCs, and there's a place for that. But this is a place that I want you to have a visceral experience. Like, I want you to
Yes.
feel it in your bones and leave with a fuller mind, body, spirit that you can take back out into the world, and either you share it or maybe you keep it for yourself. But I think
Right.
by changing ourselves, that's how we can help change the world.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I've said that before. And that's where it has to start, right? Like the light that shines the furthest shines the brightest at home.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it is definitely a place for movers. If you can't move the whole time, it's okay. Like I said, you can sit. One feedback we had, because the first year was all movement classes all day long, and we offer at least 18 different classes you can choose from each day, and
Okay.
that's expanded. But after the first year, the feedback was, "This was great, but I am really sore. Can you add some more community talks?" Yes. So we've added quite a bit of community talks over the years. And again, it's something
Yes.
to sit at a table and you
Hmm.
talk. You're not sitting there taking notes, learning anatomy. You're learning about organs. Like Amy Taylor Alpers is going to do a really neat one on the organ to spine connection. And like I said,
Interesting. Okay.
Andrea is doing art therapy, and we have meditation, and we have a lot of talks about community work. So we have some
Yes.
nonprofits that we work with, and they're coming in and doing talks about just what that looks like if you want to give more to your community. And then obviously the Inclusive Movers Roundtable with Maria and Danica and
Yeah.
Michelle.
I was going to ask about that one
Yeah.
too. I had Maria on the show and she talked about that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that was in addition 2 or 3 weeks ago that honestly should have been there the whole time, as all of us start to open our eyes in this current state where we are, that's been around
yes.
obviously for a really long time.
Mhm.
Um, but I reached out to Danica and Michelle and Vaughn because they have been a part of Momentum Fest as ambassadors and volunteers for a few years. And I said, we need to add something to Momentum Fest. We need to get more voices about this. And what does that look like to you? And they were amazing, and they took it and they ran with it. And so they're going to
Good.
be leading it. And then, yes, Marimba and Maria, Jason, Tanisha are all going to join,
Hmm.
and it's called Inclusive Movers. And I think it's going to be really important and really powerful. That's on Friday. So anyone who has a 3-day ticket to the Momentum Fest virtual event will get into that class, and it
Great.
will be on Zoom. And I think it's just going to be a really important discussion that needs to be
Mm,
out there, along with a lot of discussions that need to be happening right now. It's just
yes.
one piece. It's something we can contribute right now.
Right. I celebrate all of those pieces as beginnings. Like this is a great start to what is happening,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic. Jason is part of a group called Mellon Brothers of Pilates that
Yes.
we're part of.
Yes.
So I was just on a call with him a couple of weeks back and just connecting with him. Maria, also amazing thinker and mover.
Yes.
So it's really just fascinating to see how these voices are finally being heard.
Yeah.
And I don't feel too, Jessica, I need to say it to you. I thank you for doing that simply because I want to celebrate the fact that people are trying.
Yeah.
And when people have the grace, Black people have the grace to recognize that our world is trying,
Yeah.
that makes space for more movement to happen. instead of the why didn't this happen 5 years ago attitude. It's like, well, no, like, thank you. That is amazing. I love that. You have some great voices that are going to be at the table. And yeah, keep moving forward with that. That is awesome. That is
Well,
really,
thank
really good
you
stuff.
so much. I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't have any of the right steps. I just am so thankful for the voices who have agreed to come out, like talking to Maria and Vaughn, hearing their stories. We need more of that. And I think
Mm,
just remembering that I'm a listener right now. Like that's what I think is really interesting. This roundtable will be important because we're just listening in on their conversation. And I
yes.
think, especially as a white woman, I'm used to, I speak my voice. I'm going to speak it and it's there and I'm used to
Hmm.
it. Like there's nothing that's ever stopped me. And so hearing, especially Danica talking to her last week about how being taught to not use her voice from a young age.
Right.
And I think about teaching my daughter, it breaks my heart to think of telling my daughter that, no, you can't use your voice. And so
Mm,
a big lesson for me right now is, oh my gosh, we need voices because there are some powerful voices. And the fact that an entire group of voices have been silenced,
yes.
maybe since birth, like that. And I know I have the privilege to say, what? Like I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But just starting the process of understanding that, I mean, that's what I want. I want voices because, like you said, our light shines forth to move forward, and our voice is a big part of that, I think.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jenna Zaffino was on last week, and she had a great line she said in passing, which I've amplified because I
Yeah.
loved it so much, where she said, well, support, amplify, and connect,
Yes.
right? So she's takes a way to do that. And that's what we do. And you have a platform where you can now amplify those voices, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. I think that's what we
Yeah.
have to do is if we do have that privilege, we have to use it. If
Yes.
to someone a lot is given, a lot is expected. And I think
Mhm.
that's what we have to readjust or re-examine is okay, well, am I actually then doing that? Like am I using my platform for something that is going to
Yes.
contribute to that?
Right. You just said about talking to your daughter and the way that you teach her to have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
That reminded me of something that happened with me with my family on the weekend. Now, my wife is white, and her son and daughter are away with their dad,
Okay.
and my two sons, obviously, are black. Were in the car. So we're coming back from a friend's house in Milton. It's late at night, and I'd had, I think, one or two drinks, nothing big throughout the night, and we got pulled over by Ride. And so Ride pulls us over. They said, how was your night? Do you have anything to drink? I said, I think I might have one or two. And I said, okay, fine, have a good day. And we drove off. And afterwards, my kids were like, oh, I didn't feel like dying tonight. Like they were like, they had this sense of fear
Wow.
based on the culture and the climate and the media attention to police brutality and all these different things. And my wife was about to turn to them and say, listen, guys, you can just relax because you know that if you're doing the right thing and you're just following the law, you should be fine. And she had to stop herself because she realized that that's not necessarily going to be the case for our boys.
Yeah. That.
And it was a really moving moment for her when she realized she couldn't just lean over and say, just do the right thing and you'll be fine. So the messages that you teach your daughters and the messages that I have to teach my sons has to be the same message, but then have to put a little appendix on it, and say, except in this situation, then just be calm or just relax or just know that, or make sure you have your phone. You can't, like, we have to add to the message beyond the message because of the climate that we're in.
Right.
And it's just interesting that um, she had to go through that, and that you're realizing that the message you have to teach your daughter may not be the same message as Maria or Marimba in those situations too. So it's fascinating the time that we're
Absolutely.
in.
And
Yeah.
I think it's really realizing too that idea of, well, we just love everyone. Like, no, that's not good enough anymore. Like when I grew up,
Yes.
that's what it was. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand the sentiment. I am not complaining. I mean, my parents were great parents, but that's not enough. I mean, that's what's kept us in this pattern that, oh, we just love everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, but like that, we can't,
Yes.
we don't stop there. So yes, realizing I'm going to talk to her about the words. I mean, about the words, black and about the words brown, that we don't have to skirt around them, and we are going to go into certain places that maybe you haven't seen before, and we're going to go, and these are the businesses we're going to support, and this is why. And this is why you might have to stand up for this friend a little bit different. And
Yes.
I mean, we talked about having privilege as white people and what that
Hmm.
means. And I had a good friend say, "Gosh, you're talking to her about that already." And like, I am. I mean, because I don't know how not to. I just don't. I mean, this is what I'm in right now, and she sees what
Yes.
I do, and she sees the interviews that I do, and she hears the words I use, and so I'm gonna pass that on to her, because I just don't think there's
Absolutely.
any point that they're too young
No.
to understand that they need to use their privilege as well, which they do have, to
Mhm.
help lift up the people who don't have it.
Right, exactly. And not to be cynical with that, but like racism is being taught a lot younger than 7 as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Right. So
yes.
we demonstrate with our inclusion and with our accessibility and the things that you're doing. So good on you. Like that's very good stuff.
Yeah,
There's a saying. I was thinking about the safe space thing one more time.
yeah.
When I was working, well, I'm still on this board for working with youth.
Okay.
And one of the lines that they used instead of safe space, they kind of expanded it and said a brave space.
Mm,
So it's one thing to have a safe space, and this Pilates studio is welcome. It's a safe space,
yeah.
but it still requires a bit of bravery on my part to step in and be myself in this space. So I want to cultivate a brave space for you. So when we go to Momentum Fest, this is your brave space as well. So now it's safe for you, but now you can exercise your bravery to be yourself truly and authentically in this realm.
I think we might just have to take that new tagline now, Martin. I think
It's all yours. It is
I
all
think
yours.
that's amazing. And again, I go back to kids. I just see things through a mom lens, but same idea. It takes it from being passive a little bit to, oh, I can actually step into this and be brave. And that's exactly right, because everyone should feel safe enough that they're allowed to be brave, and then
Yes.
feel safe on maybe stumbling in that bravery, that's okay. Like, you
That's
step
okay.
into your bravery and your courage, and then it's also safe if you fall. It's safe if you need to take a break and it was too much and then you come back in. It's safe to
Hmm.
make mistakes in that. But you're right,
Yes.
if we don't step fully into feeling brave, and if we don't find places that allow us to do that, we'll never be able to cultivate it.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
It's all yours.
Yeah, thanks. I
You're
might have to
welcome.
post it today.
I'll
I'll
definitely
give you
repost that.
credit.
Yes. Yeah, and I say it to my wife all the time because we bounce back and forth between like, oh, those pictures look great. You did a great job. She's like, no, that's you in the image. No, but that's your space. No, but when you don't care who gets the credit, you get so far in life.
Yeah,
You really do. That's all yours. Go for it.
thanks. And I saw Michelle just said pass the baton, and I know you and
Yeah.
Jenna talked about that too. And yeah, I
Hmm.
think that's exactly right. Is we all have to know what our role is, or at least discover it.
Yes.
I agree, pass the baton. And I feel that way sometimes with Momentum Fest. I think as a teacher, sometimes like we have to get through our idea of, I'm going to be on stage, like I want to be the one teaching, and I'm going to do
Hmm.
this, and I'm going to do this, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's amazing. That's why we do what we do. But my favorite part about Momentum Fest is walking in and seeing all the other teachers teaching. Like, what voice can I lift up and bring to them?
Yes.
Who do
Yeah.
people need to hear from? And who is teaching at us, doing amazing work at a small little studio in Louisiana that we'd never know of? Let's bring them and put them on stage. And there
Yes.
is something so rewarding about that, about letting other voices be heard and
Hmm.
standing back and saying, you know what, it's their time now, and my time will come again. That baton will come back around. But
Yes.
I do feel like in the Pilates fitness, definitely, but the Pilates world specifically, we've missed that. We have this scarcity
Yes.
mindset still, and we need to understand that there's enough to go around. Like, there's enough
Yes.
to share, and life is much better lived when we share.
Absolutely. The most sobering part of when Jenna said that baton part was the fact that I was still thinking about it like a sprint or a marathon or Ironman where I'm the lone runner.
Right.
That's a piece that was a bit of a slap for me. It's like, oh, it is a marathon. It is an opportunity for me to pass the baton on to someone else for them to run.
Right.
It's not about me stopping and sitting down, catching my breath, and running again. It's like, no, I can hand it off to someone, and they're going to do a really good job. They might actually do a better job than me, which I would be delighted to see.
Right.
So yeah, that really resonated with me. So thanks for bringing that up again, Michelle. It was
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
And I think not only, I mean, maybe they would do the job better, but it's more just different, is what I'm realizing. Like,
yes,
Jenna is coming at this from a different place than I am, and a different place than you are, and a different place than Michelle is. So we need all of those perspectives a little bit.
yes,
And so, yeah, I think that's what I try to remember is, like you said, by passing the baton, I'm not only giving myself a rest, I'm allowing someone else to do what they do really well. And if I
yes,
never pass that, I'm not giving anyone else an opportunity in any aspect in life. If I don't relinquish that sometimes, I'm not giving anyone else an opportunity to try and to shine. Like
true,
sometimes we need to do that.
right, exactly.
Mm.
This 15 minutes absolutely flew by.
Oh yeah, it did. Oh, now I have to go back to my kids.
Oh no, you want to stall? You want to do another hour maybe? Or...
Maybe I'll just keep talking to a blank screen. I just
Right.
I'm not going to tell them.
That's like the people who like, have work out with have their headphones on, no music playing, just so people don't talk to them.
I do that in airports.
Oh, do you? Okay, there you
Well,
go.
on the airplane, like if I don't want to talk to my
Yes,
seat.
best kept secrets. Now everyone's gonna be interrupting you now, saying, "Oh, she's not playing any music. I'll just talk to her anyway."
Don't worry, we're not. Who knows when I can fly again, anyway.
Yeah,
So.
this is true. Any final takeaways for our audience as we finish off our core conversation for today?
I just thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I would say use your voice in whatever way feels the most authentic to you. It does not have to be on social media. I think there's pressure right now to have a platform or to be here, but your voice resonates the strongest at home, whatever that is for you and with your clients. If you are in that small studio in Louisiana seeing 10 people a week, that is powerful, and use your voice there to do good and to change the world, because I think it can definitely be done. So that's what I would say. Use your voice wherever you are and know that it will make a difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jessica. You're doing some great work with Momentum Fest and with your whole online presence.
Thank
Learned so much today, and I'll send you our replay with all the highlights and stuff. Thank you
you.
so much.
Perfect. Thanks,
All right.
Martin. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Core Conversations. This organic platform has been made possible by amazing people like yourself. So if you're a Pilates instructor or a movement specialist of some kind and you want to be a guest, please message me. If you're in some other field and the messages just resonate with you, message me. I'd love to have you on. All of our messages connect, and for some reason they all help us in this battle. We're all in this game together, so I'd love to hear from you. Let your words be life to someone else. Check out our website, personalvictory.ca. Click the Core Conversations page to see who our upcoming guests are, and I will see you next time on Core Conversations.